Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing a first-generation FP Journe Chronometre à résonance, also known as the Res 1. This model with symmetrical dial features white gold dial, 38mm platinum case, brass movement, and the first generation of the unique resonance chronometer caliber. Now, a quick look at the watch. In terms of size, this is the original FP Journe case size, 38mm, 8.9mm thick, 44.5 millimeters from lug to lug with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. It's a beautifully compact watch, considering there are two independent and independently settable movements in this case. It's a remarkable feat of packaging. Originally launched back in 2000, the Chronometre à résonance was a world premiere in terms of its function, and on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see it is nowhere near the edge of my wrist. I mean, this is a very compact watch. It would wear well on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference, so it's a fantastic option for those who have smaller wrists, a taste for traditional sizes. It's even a unisex option. Now, the timepiece will easily sit underneath the cuff, and you can see that to good advantage. The strap is remarkably substantial. As you can see, large rectangular scale alligator leather, a gloss finish, monotone stitch, folded edge. It is an FP Journe factory strap. It uses a curved spring bar, so there's no interference between the movement of the strap and the flank of the case. And then you can see that it uses pull tab spring bars, so you can just use your nail to unhitch the strap from the case. It's a very handy tool-free system. There's a matching platinum pin buckle. Rolling over the case, you can see it is the classic Journe case shape. That's not changed all that much since it debuted in 1999 on the Tourbillon Remontoir. You have the overlap of the bezel and the case back that creates this mid-case, well defined by those overlaps. Everything's of high polish. The lugs are blended into the case band in Calatrava fashion, and then they have a rather sharp downturn. They turn about 90 degrees from the case band, so it fits well on a small wrist. You have that knurled double dimple Journe-style crown, but take note there are two of them. The one at 12 o'clock is used for winding and setting the two independent time zones, and then the one down at 4 o'clock is used as a flyback to synchronize the 2 seconds hands, because the resonance coupling takes between 7 and 10 minutes to take effect. So the watch might actually feature out of phase and unsynced seconds hand once all is said and done, and this flyback allows you to synchronize them regardless of what times the dials are set to. The dial is white gold, making for a cool, clean, and somewhat austere, low-key aesthetic. For those who don't want to make a loud statement to the non-watch collecting fraternity, this is the Journe you want. The dial also features another Journe signature, the dial side bolts. This sort of externalized construction method was initially considered to be a gimmick back in 1999, and later it would be copied by almost everyone in the industry. Journe was brave enough to take a chance by putting assembly components on the dial side. Now, he doubled down with these steel black polished inner bezels for the two separate displays. You have two 12-hour time zones. Remember, after 2009, the dial became asymmetrical with a scrolling 24-hour dial, and a lot of folks prefer the simplicity of the Resonance 1 and Resonance 2. Resonance 2 was this dial with a rose gold movement. This is the Resonance 1 by virtue of its brass movement. You have a power reserve indicator. Absolute reserve when fully wound is about 42 hours, not quite 40, it's a bit more than that. And then you could see that it has a reverse direction for the power reserve indicator, like a marine chronometer, which needed to be wound exactly 24 hours apart every day. It was more important to know how long since the winding of the marine chronometer, because you had to wind it up in 24 hours on the nose. So when this watch has been fully wound, it indicates 0 hours since winding. Now, of course, I mentioned this is a watch that allows you to independently set times, and you can see how the winding action works as the power reserve indicator progresses towards 0. You do have the ability to set 2 independent time zones. The key thing to remember, though, is that it is not expressly a dual time watch. What happens is these two movements, so you have the crown wheel, you have the ratchet wheel with the click, you have the barrel underneath the ratchet wheel, and then a drivetrain, you have an escapement, then you have a balance that's free sprung. Both sides have been adjusted in 6 positions. Each side has a 42-hour power reserve. Each side is free sprung and beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. And there is no mechanical coupling. Rather, you can see there's a rack and pinion at center, and you turn that little gold screw, and it will vary the distance between these two sides with a judicious distancing as well as overall tuning of the two independent movements. You can achieve resonance. Just like metronomes and pendulums placed in proximity, those will eventually synchronize, and so will balances based on Swiss lever escapements. Once synchronized, if one starts to run errant, the other will pull it back into the proper timing, whether faster or slower. So if one, by virtue of position or vibration or concussion, starts to run fast, the other will slow it down, and vice versa. And that is the point of resonance coupling. Now, it's a brass movement. So silver is the rhodium that goes over the brass. But this is a rhodium-plated brass movement. Though Journe later made gold movements, the brass movements are scarcer prior and more collectible. Now, the case, as you can see, features an awful lot of stamping. As you can see, the maker's mark of Eleanor, a Paris metro area case maker that Journe used from the 80s through about mid-2008, when he started making cases himself. He actually bought Eleanor and moved it to Geneva, and it's his compound dial and case factory today. So you can also see the hallmarks of France. So precious metal hallmarks for France and Switzerland both, since this case would have passed through both of them. You can also see something that was discontinued around about mid-2005, which is the stamping of the case's year of manufacture on the case. So 04, you can see this case would have been made in 04, and because Journe transitioned to rose gold movements about halfway through 2004, this is probably one of the very last true resonance ones with the symmetrical dial and the brass movement. So this would have been one of the last of the line. It's 30 meters water resistant, so it's not a sports watch in that sense, though it is sports casual and appropriate in short sleeves. It looks good at almost everything, and after all, it is the man that makes the watch. This is a rare and desirable vintage FP Journe Chronometre Resonance. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.